Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to this 11th in the series of our In Conversation webinar series. This is the journey towards 2030, and we're in conversation with some amazing people today, Numair, Aman, and Mujtaba, Shaikh. As usual, we introduce them in the way that they're amazing champions for the Sustainable Development Goals. They're our advocates, torchbearers for imparting change through their companies and through their stakeholder networks. If you'd like to get in touch with them, then you can do so through LinkedIn. So as always, we just put a bit of context around what this conversation is around and what it's about. So this, as I say, is our 11th In Conversation webinar series. It's a conversation, not an interview. It's a gupshup around what companies and champions within companies who are leading SDGs or sustainability or corporate responsibility are doing, so we can learn better from them. And this is our response to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' request for companies to step up as we enter the decade of action and we journey rapidly towards 2030 in accelerating our actions so that we can really address some of those challenging and pressing issues to change the world for a better place. So this webinar series acts as a hub for people like yourselves, our panelists, to join and share their insights, their journeys, some of the challenges that they faced, but also a hub for other global network compact companies to learn and understand about what they could be doing, either to start the journey towards the SDGs or enhance or better what they're already doing. And the idea is that we use these conversations to help each other really advance the work that we're doing. The Global Compact in Pakistan also acts as a hub for communications around the SDGs, around assessment development, establishing baselines for the SDGs. So companies wishing to find out where they are in terms of their SDG compliance or SDG indicators can take support from our SDG Manager service. And also it's a hub for people to connect through the Global Compact to find out actually what's happening and what we could all do better in terms of collective and collaborative action. So we work as brokers is the wrong word, but facilitators for partnerships and collaboration in that regard as well. So really today's just about having this conversation on SDG 11. And I feel that we've learned so much here at the Global Compact, but also within our network as well about the great work that's going on. So we're delighted to have Numair and Mujtaba with us today. And for those people listening in live right now or later on the recording, please do remember to post certain hashtags on social media. So Uniting Business, obviously COP26, as though we're at COP26 week, and also GCNP, so Global Network Compact Pakistan. Do tag all of us in, myself, Fussy, and the rest of the team, so we can make sure that we retweet, quote, or forward your messages on to a wider audience. So with that, we'd like to get underway. So Numair, Mujtaba, just make yourselves at home. If you need to pop out to grab a cup of coffee or tea or something, then please feel free to do that. And we'll keep it light conversation. So today is all about SDG 11, which is about sustainable cities and communities. And really, like I said in my introduction to you, we just want to find out a little bit about what you're doing as individuals within your company to champion SDG 11, why you've adopted SDG 11 as a particular goal or one of the goals that you want to champion, and also what inspiration you've had along the way that you can share with others, but also share some of the challenges as well that you've had throughout that journey in convincing your peers or your colleagues or your management, leadership, etc. in terms of ye bhi humne karna chahiye, zaruri hai. So Mujtaba, if we start with you, why SDG 11? Why is this particular SDG important to you? So you just give a bit of an overview, and then Numair will do a bit of back and forth between the three of us.
First of all, thank you very much, Zubair, and the UNGC forum for inviting me to this webinar. I think it's the need of the day, and I think it aligns well with what we need to do going forward. My inspiration, Zubair, to be honest, I've lived, studied in US for about 10 years and came back to Pakistan and started my consulting business over here, started working in consulting business. So for me, I had the first-hand experiences of seeing the two different parts of the world. So as I put it together, I used to say to my friends and colleagues that when solar and renewable was new, starting up, I used to say that we will be switching to this because it won't be a luxury. It will be the need and necessity of the day. So as we look around ourselves, the challenges, being sitting here in Karachi, the urban city, such a large population. And just this morning, I was at the public hearing for Karachi Circular Railway, which is a mass transit coming to the city. And I had a chance to hear about 200 participants from different sectors of life and the challenges they will face while we are trying to bring a mass transit system in. And so you might have your own view of looking at things. There are people that are getting directly impacted by your actions also. So my inspiration was, if I can contribute in some way that help us sustain better and seeing things around the world, what could be better? So that was a personal inspiration. Being an engineer, it was easier that I can join a line of business that allows me to contribute my part. So as AI engineers, where I am regional director, and we have offices in US also, here in Pakistan, as we embarked this journey, we were already working with some of the clients. So from urban developments for some developers, real estate developers, to coal energy power plants, we were able to help clients along the lines in terms of sustainable buildings that last longer. So it does not individually serve their needs, but collectively add to the community where we live and add to the cities that we live. So I think that's where the inspiration and my journey starts. Regarding challenges, yes, we do. I find two big challenges so far. So even if I look at my business, I mean, smart solutions, sustainable communities isn't much bigger part of my business overall. It has a lot of room to grow. But what I see is there are two challenges. One is awareness. So we need to have this civic sense and awareness among our communities, among our users, that from transportation to solid waste to even food waste and environmental pollution at every level is contributing to the creation of the urban environments we live in. So we all are contributing to the damage that we are doing to this city and the world at large. I mean, the COP26 in Glasgow is about wrapping up, and you can see the goals coming out of it. There's a lot of challenges among nations of agreeing to the commitments they want to make. So there's a sense of awareness that we all as users also have a sense of sustainability and retaining the world we are living. And then the other is the companies, the government authorities and bodies who need to have this knowledge of some capex. A challenge from a business perspective that we are feeling is that sustainable solutions are probably expensive in the start. I mean, the capex might be larger on these projects, but they eventually pay off. So that's where we would like our clients, our project sponsors, and even in the government sector to make it more lucrative for the business environment too. And only at the electric cars and renewable energy, it goes much more than that, starting from the recycling, the waters around us, the air around us. So that needs to come at the institutional level. So these are the two challenges that I have felt, and I think it's growing, but it will take some time to catch up.
Yeah, and I think you raised a valid point. There is a bit of a trade-off. So things are more expensive and they will work in the long run. And I think the more people, certainly what I'm hearing, COP26 is that the more we collaborate, the more we all collectively take responsibility, then things will inherently get cheaper. So economies of scale, I guess, but there's still a lot of new technology that is still yet to be tested. and we have a long way to go if we're ready to address that change. But thank you, that's really helpful insight. And I'll come back to a couple of points you raised in a moment. Numair,
Sure.
What's been your journey? You know, what's been your inspiration around this particular SDG, and why are you championing it in your organization?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, thank you very much for giving me a chance to speak in front of all these people who are about to learn for these good goals. The inspiration, I would not go in detail into the inspirations because my inspiration was very simple. Our chairman, Haji Salim Sultan, is a person who is going out of the way for these charitable movements and for the goodness and wellness of the societies and the communities and the workers. Particularly, his role was very exemplary during the COVID. And he even paid salaries to all the employees despite there was zero business in the company. So he was my biggest inspiration and our company's inspiration also to be indulged into this SGD. Now, as far as the question is concerned about the meaning of this SGD to us, is that you see, there are two aspects of this SGD and every SGD. One aspect is, you know, we are a commercial organization. So one aspect is purely commercial and business and profit. And the other aspect of this SGD is the human aspect of it. So we perceive it as a win-win situation between these two aspects. So suppose we are getting all our resources, particularly the human resource, from societies and from these cities. So these are basically the employees and human beings who are running our businesses. Now, getting them a good life by providing a safe and healthy lifestyle, resilient work environment, and the earning opportunities. And not only the earning opportunities, but enough earning opportunities to get a good lifestyle, at least a lifestyle that could help them prosper. So to us and to me, this is a win-win situation. You cannot run a sustainable business without making the societies a sustainable societies and beautiful cities. So if you are helping the societies and these individuals who are coming to you, because we hire people from our nearby societies, and these nearby communities are very helpful to us in order to run our business. So if they are healthy, if they are sensitive toward goodness, if they are knowledgeable, if their children are going to parks, if their children are going to school, and they have a sustainable and satisfied life, they will be very, very productive at work. So working on the communities and working on the human sustainability is basically sustaining your own business. So ultimately, it will be converted to a good business and a profit.
I think there's a lot of truth in that statement, Numair. The GDP of a country is very intrinsically linked to the welfare and well-being of its citizens. So I think, you know, it's not rocket science to work out कि अगर हम हमारे मुल्क में लोगों की facilities, so we improve facilities like healthcare and transport system and food and drink and access to safe clean drinking water and all the other issues that we're aware of growing up in a country like Pakistan, अगर हम उसको fix कर ले, so we'll see improved.
Sorry, there's one more point in my mind at this point of time. Out of your discussion, I got this. You see, I've read a survey published a few years back in Pakistan. It was regarding the security situation in Pakistan, and there was one line which was very very astonishing for me. They say if you increase the unemployment by 1%, you increase crime by 6%. So it means that if you employ people by 1%, you are lessening the crime by 6% also.
Could you, when you get a chance, could you share that with Nusrat, and we'll circulate that amongst network members? Interestingly, just on that point of GDP and your statistics that you read in that publication, there's also one from UNDP, actually, from, this is about 8 years old, this study, but just to draw a parallel reference, that if you can provide safe, clean drinking water and better sanitation facilities for people, rural communities, you uplift the GDP by $8 per person per month. So imagine the impact of 220 million people population of Pakistan, and that's significant. So clearly the SDGs make a good deal of sense, not just for companies, but for citizens of the countries that we live in. One of the things I want to touch upon is one of the targets within SDG 11, which is SDG 11.2. So the target, obviously, by 2030 is to provide access to safe, affordable, and sustainable transport systems. And I know, obviously, we've had an increase in population over the past 5 years. We've gone from 180 to 220, and that's documented 220. We obviously have undocumented population as well. So, aap dono ke khayal mein kya hai? Because I know you are industries in your own right, so you have use of transportation at levels that perhaps are significant. You have stakeholder networks and suppliers that then use transportation as well. But just moving that outside of your corporate kind of world and the citizen world, what are your thoughts and opinions or views on how we can improve transport systems for everyone? And I mean, right across the board. So just New York में, London में होता है कि गरीब भी अमीर भी सब transport systems इस्तेमाल करते हैं. Obviously, you do have differentiation in terms of sort of compartment levels, but what special attention do you think? So first and foremost, what needs to happen to make transport systems available for all? The second is, what special attention needs to be paid for those who are from vulnerable situations? So women, children, persons with limited mobility, or older persons. Mujtaba, I'll throw that back to you. What do you think?
Sure, Zubair. 11.2 transport, I mean, it is definitely one of the most important requirements. Pakistan mein agar aap mass transit or general transport की situation देखें, several cities are badly suffering. इसमें couple of things देखने की ज़रूरत है. हम चंद दिन पहले एक चीज़ discuss कर रहे थे. We were talking about the standard of life in the country, and there were comments that if you compare 2-3 generations back where we are today, Pakistan has generally done better. So what are we complaining about? I mean, if my grandparents and we compare parents and then the generation and the one after me, we are generally improving. And my comment and response was that, yes, maybe our lifestyle has improved, the income has improved, but at the same time, what this country needs to achieve is a minimum level of a standard of life for everybody. And it's not that top 20 or top 30% that have access to everything. You need to have reasonable lifestyle and access to basic needs, that being water, food, health, transport, etc., to everyone. And that's where you can say that Pakistan has achieved a sustainable level. I mean, if you look at the scoring, we are probably around 130 something on the overall countries in the world. So we're still lacking far. Coming to 11.2 and touching the transport, first of all, I mean, we have too much reliance on private transport. As a nation, we tend to avoid mass transit and public transport too. As I was mentioning, this Karachi Circular Railway, the project we are involved in the feasibility. I mean, it's been going on for quite some time. Still, we haven't achieved it. And if you look at the BRTs in Pakistan, we have few across the country, nothing in Karachi operational right now. So I think there's urgent need of bringing mass transit systems with a reasonable fare that people can opt to this. That's number one. Number two is accessibility. So we need to look at the bike, motorcycle circulation, a small door to mass transit location situation. So whether that be taxi, Uber, or other systems, or small buses, or coach systems that can bring people to the mass transit locations. And we are studying it. It's just that we need to invest, as a nation, we need to invest more. So generally, overall, the country is embarking that bandwagon. I mean, Lahore, Multan, Islamabad, Peshawar has already got some mass transit system, and the improvement is there. Karachi is getting very soon. So hopefully, there is a trend in the public. And there is a trend in the government sector to work on this. You touched about the safety and the women and the older age. I'll tell you this fact that Peshawar BRT has just proven. We were talking in a meeting just a few days ago, and they said that the good portion of ridership on Peshawar BRT is actually women. And that is because they feel safer in a mass transit system with CCTV security, cameras, and everything in place. Women feel safer to travel in a mass transit system. So I think as we improve this infrastructure across the city, might be getting from your house to the station would still be vulnerable for this portion, for the women and children. But as long as they have access to a smart transit system, I think they will feel much secure. And the current, as I mentioned, Peshawar BRT is already proving that fact. The ridership of women is substantially higher than it used to be in general transport. So I think we are on that. And hopefully the next decade will be important as we switch onto the mass transit system more across the cities.
Thank you. Numair, आपके लिए SDG 11.6 talks about reducing the impact of cities through paying special attention to waste management and air quality. And obviously, you're in an industry that is in fabrics, in textiles. We know the positive impact a company like yours can make in managing waste better and safely and securely and hazardous and all that kind of stuff. What do you think a company like yours can do to help improve those standards and help reduce air pollution and perhaps manage sort of, going into 11.7 here as well, access to green and public spaces as well. So the two are kind of interlinked, because if we can better manage waste, both solid and gas, we can improve the way we look at water flows and obviously other aspects of utilization of that, then that has a positive net impact on perhaps the greener spaces. So just to get some context, because that's going to lead me to an actual question I want to ask both of you that was raised a couple of days ago at COP26 in response to what Boris Johnson had to say on day one. So just your thoughts on that, Numair.
You see, this has a much more deeper perspective to look into this 11.7 and 11.6. You see, the psychological diseases and the ENT diseases are at rise in Pakistan and in everywhere also. So Lahore became the number 1, number 2 polluted city in terms of air pollution, and Karachi became the number 10 polluting city as far as the air pollution is concerned. And the first thing that I mentioned is the psychological diseases. So the psychiatrists are, you see, they are getting it out of the surveys and interviews that most of the people who are disturbed are because of the sick building syndromes and the heavy heaps of, you see, these solid waste dumps in the areas, and the brackish water that are coming out of the houses and spreading over the streets and the roads. So these things are not only polluting the areas, making them look bad, but they have a special impact on our thinking process and our psychology. So if you are going to do something better for the solid waste management and these sewage waters management and the sick building syndrome, you are actually improving the well-being and the psyche of the people. No, looking at, because today Karachi is also, you see, included in the unhealthy air index today, because from the last 2-3 days, there are heavy haze around Karachi. And most of it is a particulate matter 2.5. So most of the haze is because of the air pollution in Karachi. Now, being in commercial organization, we have limited resources and we have limited time to do a lot of things. So first of all, we started thinking over our own company, and we voluntarily got the certification of ISO 14000, which is an environmental certification. And there are so many other environmental certifications. We are registered with WWF for Green Office also. Why I'm mentioning it is that during those certifications, you get a chance to notify and get involved into the aspect and impact analysis of your organization. So what air pollution sources you have in the company? Now we are running mostly our sites are running on purely our own energy. So we have generators with us, we have boilers with us, and we have coal boilers also. So the studies shown that in order to comply with the government NEQS, you need to have some filters and scrubbers installed on your boilers and generators. So suppose I'm coming towards the cheapest, it is no not cheapest in Pakistan, but the coal was the cheapest source of energy for us, but it was at the same time very polluting. So we installed scrubbers. If you are an environmental person, you will understand that scrubber is basically showering of a water over the smoke or over the air emissions of a boiler or a generator. So then you collect the water from it and you send it to the water treatment plant. So you get a very lesser amount of air pollution emitted into the air. No, our responsibility is that whatever business we are creating, so according to polluter pay principle, the business is generating pollution also, which is going free of cost to the people. So you have to pay for it. So we have got all those filters and scrubbers, and we are within the NEQS polluting our air for Pakistan. So that's a responsible organization. So if you study it in a longer perspective or on a scientific basis, you will find that we are producing very less pollution in order to have this air index polluted.
Yeah, no, I think that's very helpful. And obviously the conversation we're having is very holistic. We're trying to drill down as specific as we can to the respective industries and sort of subcategories that you represent. There are some questions that come through on social media and also on the chat group as well. Agar aapne sawal puchna hai, so please just ask it in the chat box, and I'll try and formulate it in such a way and ask our panelists as well. So I know there are a couple of coming through, which Nuzhat will share with us. Ek sawal mujhe aapse puchna hai aap dono se, and just a short response. Boris Johnson made a comment on the opening of the COP26. He said that actually part of the responsibility, not all, I think he should have expanded that sentence slightly, that part of the responsibility of climate issues and climate problems in developing countries, for example, Hamara Pakistan, although he didn't use Pakistan specifically, is the result of industrialization in industrialized developed countries. Aap dono ka kya view hai iske upar? Is that right then for us to be penalized for some of the lack of action or less action that's being taken around climate change? Or do you think that hum itna hi kar rahe jitna humne karna chahiye? Obviously, we all need to work harder, but we're doing the best we can in the way we can to address these issues. So it was a strange conversation that was taking place, but I just wanted to take your views as champions for SDG 11, champions for SDGs within your companies, but also representing the industries that you do that have a significant impact positively on climate as we move forward as well. So do you have any thoughts or views on that? But Mujtaba, if you go first.
Okay. All right. Well, sure, Zubair. I mean, I would agree to some to the extent. I mean, part of environmental degradation and deterioration in our urban environments is because of is connected to deforestation. A lot of agriculture and green lands being built over with concrete jungles, and then is industrialization. Now, is that because we want it that way, or is it the need? The problem is that as these developing countries have grown, I mean, they of course need industrialization and people and residential and urban centers for the growth. So, I mean, saying that they are contributing to this issue is good in the hindsight, but it's not that they want it that way. I think a good opportunity for developing countries today is that they are aware of the circumstances. I mean, the general knowledge about climate change, the impact to our environment, and in fact, our future depends on the fact that we need to grow in a sustainable manner. So I think these developing nations are at an advantage to grow in a more responsible manner. So yes, they have contributed, but it's not that they want to, I would say. So most of these developing countries are committing to the climate change. I mean, Pakistan is champion. If you take the 10 billion tsunami program of the current government, I mean, no other nation in the world has come even close to this. So we can be leader, though we not being a major GDP player in the world. So I think we are contributing. We commit to certain goals which are within our means. But what I would, as a nation, would like to see is that we have more sustainable, friendly policies from the government. There are more incentives for these industries. So if you are not polluting our waters and you are discharging clean water into the system back, those companies should be rewarded. If you are recycling 30% or 40% of the material you use, I mean, even if I look at my industry, we are in construction industry, generally within the AEC, architect, engineering, construction industry. We look about concrete. Cement is one of the largest carbon contributor in the world. I mean, the research hasn't caught up on a replacement. Aggregates have been, of course, replaced. Bitumen has been, road construction has improved. There are plastic roads coming with solar panels on these. So I think as a nation, we need to have a little bit more incentives from the government. So what you will see is industrialization will still happen, but will happen more responsibly in the future going forward.
So that's the interesting point that you've raised. And I'll come back to you in a moment, Mujtaba, on what you're doing at AI in terms of managing that in terms of target setting, and then how that affects national policy and what we as GCNP in Pakistan can do to lobby government to help create those friendlier policies for those who are really moving along the SDGs. Numair, what's your view on the earlier statement that I made about Boris Johnson and the fact that they have probably been a contributor to Pakistan's current situation in terms of climate?
I believe if you look at Pakistan, first of all, Pakistan is an agriculture-based company, an agriculture-based country. So most of the income that is coming to the country is of the agriculture income. More than 70% people say. Now the rest of it is coming from the industry. In between, even the industry, the only industry that are making significant exports is the textile industry. So when you get chance to enter into a textile industry, the first thing that you will witness is the use of water. So because it is a water based organization and a water based industry, a lot of water is used when you develop a jeans pant or a shirt or a t-shirt. So a lot of it is developed. But the second thing, being agriculture country and also a poor country, so you have to have some resources developed in order to people get some earning for their homes. No, the industrial countries are much more polluted than Pakistan, because in Pakistan we have four weathers and we have a lot of rain. We have a lot of good winds here, particularly in Karachi. There are a lot of, you see, from June to July and from August to onward, there are two directions where the winds blow on. So most of the pollution get out of it and it goes to a scarce area. My opinion on his comment would be that developing countries are lessly polluting the environment and getting their livelihood out of the industry.
Thank you, Numair. That was really helpful. One of the things that we want to try and work out is where companies are in terms of SDGs. So we call this the baseline. Why is it that you're championing this particular SDG, but have you actually thought long and hard, I'm sure you have, about why this particular SDG, how it affects your company, and what strategy or roadmap you set for going forward? So it's a question again for both of you. What targets have you both set for your organization in order to meet SDG 11? And like I said, SDG 11 has got many indicators behind it, as of all the SDGs do, but this one in particular. So आप लोग ने कोई setting की भी है? Have you established a baseline to understand where you currently are against this particular SDG? And what targets have you set yourself? Are they science-based targets? Are they your own targets that you would like to be in a certain place by a certain time? And what are you doing to progress that as well? So, Numair, aap pehle bata de ke, have you got a baseline set of where you are along the SDGs? What are the targets that you're setting at Rajby? And what are you doing to move that forward?
Okay. When firstly we studied this and then we got the gap analysis of organization, we came to a point that there are few things that we are already doing. So whatever we are already doing, we need to increase it to other communities also. And those things that are in our control, we need to create awareness about that, and we get collaboration from other companies and societies in order to achieve it. So first of all, you see, reducing the number of deaths. The number of deaths are because the people are not getting properly diagnosed and they are not getting their basic health facilities at their doorstep or in their societies. So it is out of their reach by money also and by distance also. So we created two different medical centers in our nearby communities where 200 to 500 patients are daily coming and they are getting their diagnosis and medicine free of cost over there. So we have planned to expand that to other areas also. Now, side by side, where there are already going on such good activities, suppose Indus Hospital, and there are a few more charitable hospitals, we are making permanent monthly donations to them in order to cater those patients who are needy and who have to be diagnosed and properly medicated. So that's basically one point which we are targeting over here. The other is, as we are commercial organization and we are making exports, you cannot make exports if you don't have these environmental and these good targets with you. So you have to have these targets. Now we are going for recycling of the water. Our next target would be, because in the first step, we got our effluent treatment plant on our polluted water. So now we are emitting a good quality, not a good quality, but a reasonably good quality of water into the government sewerage. But for the next year, we have targeted that we will get it recycled and use the water for goodness of the company also and for the nearby community. So that's one thing which we are catering for as a target.
That would be repurposing your waste. That's really a
the
fantastic
other thing
way
is
forward.
Exactly, thank you very much. The other thing is the awareness. You see, first step, late back, I mastered environmental sciences in 1994 back. So why Pakistan has started environmental science was this awareness thing, because the government thought that the first step to any goal and to any progress is the awareness about that goal. So if you introduce the subject in the universities and then you provide a proper awareness to the employees and to the school and college kids, it will create a big impact on the societies. So our next KPI is about the awareness of these goals and these good practices within our industry, and then on the CARTI platform, on the other national platforms, in order to make people aware of all this.
Should I go ahead, Zubair?
There's some delay in the conversation.
Thank you, Numair. Mujtaba, what are you doing with AI?
Yeah, I was asking for permission to speak. Yeah, sure. We have a twofold impact. I mean, as an organization, we have an impact that we can create within our organization. And being a service industry, I mean, we are not manufacturing here. We are not building big things here ourselves. I mean, not that we own them. So from an organization perspective, I have a smaller impact. So, hey, our offices are healthier. They use sunlight. They have smarter products being used. Our employees feel safer and healthier while they work here. We use equipment which is environment friendly and are long lasting, etc. So that's the smaller impact that we create. But the other one, the larger impact as a service industry we create is actually helping our client and investing in services that actually help clients achieve those goals. So if you look at at AI engineers, our one of the largest service domain is actually technology and sustainable solutions. So we invest heavily into smart sensors for our infrastructure monitoring and building monitoring, facility operational things. We're using drones, lidars, various types of sensors embedded into the structures, separately installed, etc. And then we have 4 USGBC certified sustainable green experts in the company who can help build communities, networks, facilities that are green and sustainable. So that's what we have done within the company. That's what we have invested in, and we feel good about it. I tell you, when you have employees working on in such domains, they are happier than working on conventional projects. So that's one part. The other part is helping our clients. So I mentioned earlier, we're talking on a coal energy power plant here in Pakistan, where we can sustainably improve some of their facilities. There are a couple of factories coming up in Korangi. There's a park coming up in Korangi. We're helping them achieve a carbon-free environment. We designed a recreational park on the Islamabad-Peshawar motorway, where all the rides, the entire water and the solid waste is recycled within the park, except some of the waste that goes outside for recycling purposes. We are working with a partner who has got a grant to develop a biomass gas plant in the country. A feasibility is ongoing. So that's where the larger impact of AI comes in. We will continue to invest into people who provides green and sustainable solutions, and we'll continue to work with our clients and offer them such products and services which overall reduce the impact of carbon emissions on the society.
I think that's absolutely a valid point. And one of the things that we're doing at GCNP with our colleagues in other network offices is to understand not just the impact of the actions that companies and champions like you are taking, but also what targets are being set and what baseline has been established to understand better of how we can then progress towards 2030 and accelerate action. So it'd be interesting to learn from both of you post, obviously, this webinar in terms of what targets you've set for your companies and what was the baseline that you established to understand that. And that's something that obviously we value in terms of information. Now, we're almost at the end of our webinar, but the conversations don't stop here. We will ask you for more information, more insight, valued thoughts and opinions that can be shared. So Nuzhat will be in touch in how we can do that and share that with our network. And it's getting very noisy here as well now. So just a moment of reflection as we wrap up is just to have a think about the 1st of January 2030. You wake up in the morning, you have a cup of coffee in your hand, you look over your wherever you are from your office or your bedroom window, and you think, this is the world I would like to see. So Mujtaba, what's the 2030 that you would like to see? doing all the great stuff that you're doing. And Numair, same question for you.
I don't think in 2030 I will see the world I exactly like to see. Seems like a very unrealistic target. But I want to drive around, to be honest, and I want to breathe in a fresher air. To be honest with you, sometimes I travel even to the northern Pakistan. I come out of the car, I come out of the door of my house, I take a deep breath, I just feel fresher air. And I wish I had the same one here in Karachi, which isn't the case. So to 2030, I just say that I have improved the life of people around me. My company has helped my clients have more cost-effective and sustainable solutions. And the world is a little better place compared to today. So I think that's what we would like to, I would like to wake up to. We owe it to the generations. I mean, the awareness has quite creeped in. I speak regularly at universities, keep getting invited like you guys have. And I look at students 15, 20 years younger than me, and I see a sense of saving this planet much, much more than I see around myself in my peers. So I think we are in the right direction. Whether we get there in 2030 or maybe further down the line, we should eventually get there.
Thank you. Numair, what does your 1st of January 2030 look like?
Yes, I believe the awareness is increasing day by day among all the groups of the society. So suppose the kids are being taught in the schools about these environmental planning, environmental sciences, pollutions, and they are running campaigns. There are more pressure groups that are developing in the country. Those who are doing work for pollution control, those who are doing work for waste management controls. So I believe because the awareness is getting increased, the government and the other authorities would be compelled to do much more good environmental planning in the company. And I believe it will not be worsened, but in 2030, the situation would be very pleasant because I believe the awareness is increasing and the commitment is increasing.
So what happens next? That these conversations don't stop here. We will be back in touch with you, take your thoughts and insights, which we'll then formulate and share with wider network, because sharing is caring, as they say, and they've been saying that a lot these days. ये सारे जो हम आज जो हमने बातें की है is just the tip of the iceberg, and as you both rightly know, we clearly have a lot more work to do individually, through our organizations, and collectively and collaboratively. So the only way to do that is by talking more, but talking better, and moving talk to action. So we're really looking forward to hearing from you in terms of what you're doing next and how you're moving forward on that journey. And as always, we ask everyone that's listening in now, live and later through the recording, to share their stories and their conversations. As I said earlier on, we're now looking at trying to better understand what companies are doing, the targets that they're setting to achieve the goals, and where we can support and help. We'll be sending out an email circular over the next 24 hours about the SDG Me service that we launched some time ago, that's been really successful in helping companies like yourselves establish where they are on the SDGs journey, the baseline, and then some of the support they can avail from within the GCNP network and our team to move that forward. But I'd like to thank both of our panelists, Mujtaba, Shaikh and Numair Aman, for taking their time today to share their thoughts, their insights, and the way they are progressing the SDGs, and particularly SDG 11, for not just for a better Pakistan, but for the next and future generations as well. So thank you so much for your time. Like I said, we'll be back in touch. And again, just a message for everyone that's listening in now and later, don't forget the hashtags Uniting Business, Global Compact Network Pakistan, and obviously COP26. Keep sending us your information and stories about what you're doing. They're really valuable. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, obviously, and Facebook. And we'll be back next month on the next in-series conversation on SDG 12. So take care. Speak to you all soon, inshallah.
Inshallah. Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, Zubair. Thank you very much.